The latest report from the Bloomberg trade tracker, it actually shows global trade is poised to turn a corner, and the worst of the downturn may actually finally be in that rearview mirror. For a closer look at the trade industry, we're joined by somebody who knows a lot about it. Seroka joining us right now. He is the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, just a minor port here in our economic system. Great to have you here on set, Gene.
Good to see you.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of the pulse of what's going on in terms of the flow of ships. And are we seeing, I guess, a normalization of activity or something, I guess, different?
Yeah, cargo flow operationally is more normal compared to the way we used to see it. All the vital statistics I look at based on velocity of ships, cargo movement, seem to be in really good shape. But there's still a lot of inventory, Romaine, here throughout the United States. In fact, the Fred data says that we've still got an inventory sales ratio of 1.40, meaning that we've got 40% more inventory behind every retail sale we make. That's got to continue to come down and be worked through the system.
This may be a dumb question, but I mean, looking ahead to the holiday season, is this something, what you just told us, does that impact, I guess, what we're going to see in terms of flows, or have all those holiday goods already made it to our shore?
You'll still see holiday cargo coming through during the month of October, leading just about up to Thanksgiving with the last-minute products that are speeding through market. And so far, all indications are the cargo's getting to market, to distribution and regional distribution centers smoothly, unlike what we recently saw in years past.
Well, when it comes to those elevated inventory levels, is it safe to assume then that we're going to see some hefty discounts to try to clear it out?
If you're like me, you're getting emails almost every day from your favorite retailer. And by Friday, when they say that sale is closing out, it comes around the next Monday again. Realistically speaking, the hotter items, those that are geared towards the kids and the holiday products, will be coming through. But still, working down that older product is important. Imports to the U.S. this year are down about 18% overall. L.A. is very similar right now. And what we can see is the biggest lever to that is furniture. During COVID, a lot of folks bought a new desk, couch, dining room table, large, bulky items that take up a lot of containers. That seems to be one of the main differences now in overall cargo volume on the import side.
So maybe we're still not completely back to normal when it comes to some of those pandemic effects. But it's interesting, Gene, I see that port volumes, they actually increased in August, but demand was still sort of suppressed there. Is that just a byproduct, again, of those inventory levels, or how does that dynamic work?
It is. We had a couple things happen too, Katie. One is that we finally got our dock workers contract ratified in the month of August, and we saw the retailers, other importers, start pushing their cargo back to L.A. in a little bit larger volume. We'll now, with the September figures, have 2 consecutive months of year-on-year growth, the first time that's happened in 13 months.
Was there any sort of longer-term, I guess, fallout from the disruptions that we saw during the pandemic, where we know that a lot of folks were looking for alternative ports to go into? Some found smaller ports, and whether it's on the Gulf or on the East Coast here. Did any of that stick longer term?
Yes, and it will. History has shown over the last 20 years, Romaine, that when we had certain episodes or shock to the supply chain on the West Coast, in L.A., Long Beach specifically, cargo has found its other way. 4 corner strategies, port diversification concepts, and some of it sticks. A lot will come back, but not all of it. And that's why we're out there campaigning for every pound of freight possible.
I do want to get your thoughts here on just weather conditions. As you know, there have been a lot of areas of trade routes around the world that have been affected by drought, not necessarily in that Los Angeles area specifically here, but we know with the Panama Canal, and of course there's been a lot of discussions about some of the river routes that I know you don't necessarily have to traffic in here. But how severe is that right now, not only in the here and now, but in terms of planning for the future? It's
enough to put yet another important variable in the equation for all these supply chain folks making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen some cargo booked out of Asia that's now coming to L.A. typically would go through the Panama Canal, but concerns about that third lock's draft level and the ability to really fill those ships has folks changing their minds just a little bit. This too will be cyclical, but it's just one more piece to this overall equation that becomes so complex.
Well, talk to us a little bit more about that, because extreme weather, we've seen a lot of it over the past year. There's predictions that we're going to continue to see a lot of it. Has that changed how you operate at all at the Port of Los Angeles? Are you hedging or adjusting for that possibility that these events are going to become much more common?
Yeah, Katie, this is one of the biggest focal areas because, as you both know, by 2030, we want to be a zero-emission cargo handling port. And by 2035, we want all those 20,000 heavy-duty trucks to be zero emission as well. That means we've got to produce, store, and distribute greener energy in greater quantities than we ever had before. So this is the work that's taking place every day, whether it's on electricity generation or hydrogen fuel cell capability. We've got to continue to really move at a more rapid pace in these areas if we want to meet those all-important climate goals that we have set.
And I should probably ask you about artificial intelligence. When it comes to your port, is that something that you're thinking about, that you're incorporating into the docks?
Yeah, predictive and prescriptive analytics have been on the drawing board now for several years. And the idea is, how much better can we get at using latent capacity in the port, taking advantage of those gaps that exist today so we can speed even more cargo through? For example, 50% of the truck gates go unused every day at the Port of Los Angeles. Being able to just see around corners a little better and plan for trucks to come in and out at a more frequent pace is something I think we can get after right away.
Gene, it's great to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Our thanks to Gene Seroka, Port of Los Angeles Executive Director.